Welcome to the Posture Dojo podcast. We're here discussing what potential is possible with our postures. What can we do in our daily thoughts, our daily movements, our daily habits, our daily patterns to build our highest quality posture built for a long-term quality life. I'm Sam, I'm your host. I've been on my own journey correcting and healing an 85-degree kyphoscoliosis using a range of methods from breathing, movement, meditation, gymnastics. And I am on this podcast inviting experts from a wide range of fields in posture correction to share their perspectives, to share their tips and share their journeys through this world of finding postures that serve a better quality life. And today we have Mary, who has a website, healyourposture.com. And Mary, I'd like you to introduce yourself. Who are you and how did you end up in this world of posture correction?
Well, first of all, Sam, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. I found your website and your work just utterly awesome. And I'm very excited about what you're doing and sharing in the world. My own journey was through dance. I was sort of a not very talented dancer. And along the way, I met Ida Rolf, who was the founder of a manual therapy called structural integration. She was very adamant that it wasn't postural integration. She said posture is about putting yourself somewhere, but structure is about how you're really organized. And so she was very interested in improving that organization so that the bodies could be well aligned with gravity. And her belief was that when the human being was in harmony with the planet and in harmony in terms of, being held upright by the gravity's pull, that people's behavior was better, that people would be more honorable and gracious and all those good things. So, hasn't quite happened just yet, but we're working on it, you and me and all the other people who are trying to help people, I would say, get into their bodies instead of having one. Instead of letting it be an object, it's really an expression of one's being. And that's changing the perception of what posture is, right? It's an expression of your beingness. Right. It's not just a position that you put yourself in because it looks better.
And where does our beingness come from?
Well, you tell me. I think we are organisms. It's like you could say that we are just part of evolution and, a step along the way, who knows where it's going. But on the other hand, you could say we are manifestations of the great life force or God or whatever it is that you call it. So there would be some kind of spiritual embodiment in that sense. So, I don't know what being is. For me, it's a kind of a state. It's a state of being open and receptive and available and not afraid. Yeah.
I love that. To the inspiring of breath that we are doing, the inspiring and the expiring of breath, the respiration, the respiration. I think it's a big majority of what being is, how we inhale and exhale. I guess in every time we do it, we're negotiating with the air, the spirit, and the earth and the matter, and that kind of process, the mindset we have, the physical state we have when we're doing that conversation, that inhale, that exhale relationship. I guess that's a large part of our being.
And it's a wave, isn't it? It's like that. It's a cycle. It's not a static placement of anything. It's being able to go with a flow, and that's the name of your program, right? Flow Wolf. It's a
That
flow. It's
is
a
correct.
movement. So presence is a
It
movement. It's
is.
not a place. It's not a static posture, really. Yeah.
And we're kind of getting more, I guess, scientific backup and understanding in that the the slower our breaths are, like moving towards 6 breaths a minute, or 10 seconds per breath is a good benchmark. That's kind of been discovered to be a key to longevity, by having these slower, more quality breaths as opposed to these higher, more faster paced chest breathing. We have limited amount of breaths, and I guess the way we can start becoming aware of that and present with that in our body, I think, is a key, at least to my own methods, and appears to be your approach as well.
Yeah, I think breathing is well, I guess it's pretty essential, isn't it? It's like the first thing. Without breath, there isn't anything else. But how we breathe is also a big, it's people breathe in all sorts of ways that are not beneficial, that are not health promoting. So teaching people to restore their natural breathing ability is, I think, part of both of our approaches, right? To the person.
Yeah, and keyword being restore, right? When we're children, we have we have all of these alpha brain waves going on. We have our Buddha belly that we're breathing and inflating. It's relaxed. We're not trying to suck it in to look a certain way or sit a certain way. We're just naturally in bodies. So let's we know. I mean, what a amazing relationship to interact with Dr. Rolf and her methods. So where are you now? What type of postural kind of offerings do you have at the moment?
Myself, or where I've gone since I studied with Ida Rolf. There's two different things that I could talk about.
Where are you now? What is in your world? Healing your posture.
So what that means to me is not just Ida Rolf's work, which was profound and is still the basis of what I do, but it isn't everything. And she was just very much a Victorian sort of person, and she had this idea about top of the head up and waistline back, and a certain kind of, even though she didn't like the word posture, I think actually she was teaching posture. But posture is only one aspect of presence, of being. There's also how you move. How does the body move from one place to another, or in doing work, or in playing, or in dancing? How connected, how graceful, how flowing can it be? And that's related to posture, because if the posture is compressed and distorted, then the movement can't be free in all directions. So movement is part of it. Expression is another part. It's like, how do you come out into the world with your beingness? Is it comfortable? Is your uprightness a comfortable, authentic place in you, or is it something that you assume because you are being interviewed by somebody, right? And you want to make a good impression. But for me, the key to all of those things is what you feel, what you sense. So that's allowing yourself to take in sensations inside your body, and also impressions through your eyes and ears and tactile senses that give you information about what's going on around you. And that sensation is the basis of how you move, really. It's like you move in response to what you felt. But most people are only interested in the sensation of pain. That's the only sensation that is really valued. It's like you ask somebody how they feel, and they'll tell you whether or not they have a pain. So part of my work is to help people begin to value sensations other than pain as motivating. For example, I don't know, I'm rambling now. Do you want me to give you an example?
No, please. Yes, continue.
Okay, so for example, one of my, I guess, pet peeves is how much time we spend looking at screens like we're doing right now, right? And a little while ago, you and I had a big problem getting connected on this call. It's like there were all these little things that didn't go right. And when I stood up after that, I realized that I'd completely lost my sense of space, which I'm always teaching people about, keep an awareness of the space around you and behind you, because when you do that, that helps open up and sustain your body in the space. By perceiving the space, you get support from the space. And once you lose it and you go like this, trying to figure out this little thing on the computer, you're compressed, your joints are no longer free to move in all directions. You generally have much less pleasant looking posture, right? So one of the worst things for posture is screens, and allowing the screen to take our focus. It's like the screen sucks the body out of you, in a sense. And you're no longer a body,
And
you're
the
just
breath
an
sometimes.
object.
I'll catch myself
Yeah.
breathing when I'm...
Yeah, you're not breathing. Yeah. So I don't know, if I wanted to give somebody a hot tip, that would be it. Put your phone down and look around you, and talk to people. But also, I think,
real world.
yeah. But, phones are here to stay. Small objects, they probably will get even smaller. They'll all be on our wrist, and then we'll have a crick in our neck from looking down at the wrist. But
and then I do think the next step is AR, augmented reality glasses, which, and ergonomically, I'm kind of thinking that might be a good thing, because it allows us to move more naturally. When we are on these phones, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm spending maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, it's communication. All of my workflows are here, editing videos. Like, there's so much that's done on this little device. So you're right. You focus on this. Maybe you're intending to do something. You're trying to do something. You're in tension to do something. It's literally creating intention, and we'll see that in the shoulders a lot of the time for people who are, pushing forward, taking weight, taking responsibility, and intending something on these screens, right? So, yeah, as you were saying, bringing that presence to that environment, and I've found that looking for positions that allow me to, if I'm going to be on the screen, at least have it at a place where it's not pushing my eyes down, and therefore, the head forward in this way. Like, this is not what we want to be doing. But if we're in a deep squat and we have our arms on the table or arms on our knees, we can actually kind of bring that screen to a level which is actually going to promote that kind of elongation through the spine. So I always try to integrate those types of positions and postures into my daily workflows.
Yes, and teaching them to your students as well. It's like alternative ways of sitting at the computer, from the floor to standing. Sitting on the floor is so good for the body. And just, I don't think, we were not designed by the Creator to sit in chairs. People designed chairs. And chairs originally were only for royalty, for kings. And, the rest of us sat in the mud or whatever, right? But little by little, everybody got chairs, and now we're sort of allowing our bodies to be shaped by the chairs. So we have to get up out of them. But just to say that is useless. Get up every hour is the recommendation. Get up and stretch every hour. So you're in the middle of a workflow, you're not going to do that. I don't do it. But I could sit in more different types of situations while I'm in my flow, right? But I think
Yeah.
people need to be taught those. It's like, okay, here's a whole series of lessons of different ways to sit while you're using your device, whatever the device is. Just occurred to me that's a really good idea. Someone should
Sure,
do
a
that.
reminder every 15, 30 minutes, just a little beep to switch that position, whether it's from cross-legged to
Yeah.
one knee, the other knee. It's really there's no, there's if you're constantly changing, that's the goal. The best
Yes,
posture is your
exactly.
next goal,
Moving.
right?
Yeah.
It is, yes, designed to move. We live in this capitalist economy, which is, designed to make your life, it creates businesses and products that try to make your life easier. And easier is more comfortable, and that's where you get the chairs, and that's where you get, drive-throughs and comfier cars, and we're just getting more and more comfortable. And I think if we follow that, eventually that will create, our bodies will turn into blobs. And they're not created for that. Our spine is a spring designed to take us around this planet. And so, I guess bringing the awareness to a different direction and choosing the work that we need to do. When you're when you become aware that you've been taken out of your ideal structure or posture, what's your process to get back in alignment?
For me, the first part is to find the weight of my bones. So specifically for me, it's the weight of my ankles, the malleoli, just above the feet. If I can find weight there, then I can find my footprints. I can find my feet's relationship to the ground. So I have to go down, because generally what happens when I'm lost is I'm up in my head, right? So I have to find the weight of my lower body, the weight of my pelvis bones. And then I think I think it helps to find the scapulas also, and the elbows. And then the space behind my body. Yeah, it's that back space, because when I'm lost, I'm all in front, you know. So I think that's it. It's weight and then this spacious behind myself.
Yeah, I went through that as you were describing it, and it was amazing. Like I like the toes, I like the pelvis, I like the eyes and the occipital. I've definitely kind of felt a lot of value, kind of connecting and bringing awareness to that equalizer, that balancer, that leveler that we have between our eyes and the occipital at the back of the head, especially in correcting kyphosis, that forward neck.
Yes.
It does help kind of having that string kind of imagined from the back of the head. But I find that when we add in our eyes and that we give that gentle, just kind of looking up about, like, beyond our eyebrows, as we have that string, I feel like we're just adding a little extra little pulley system there to kind of
Okay.
elevate that head and place it on top of that structure as well. So because kyphosis is the more severe curve that I'm correcting at the moment, that's certainly something that I would add on to that. But I liked, the bones above the ankle. What was that one?
The malleoli. Those bumps, we think of them as ankles, but it's malleoli just means bump, basically. So on either side of your ankle, right?
That really grounded the whole foot.
Exactly. And if you say ground the foot, it's not the same. Right. Because the feet don't have much weight. The feet are sense organs, right? So their purpose is to feel, not to be heavy. They feel and they articulate, but those leg bones are heavy, and that helps you relate to your own heaviness, because without your heaviness you can't go up, right? It's like a bird sitting on a branch. It has to go down to go up, and so do we. So with this lift in the eyes that you're talking about, it's really important to, at the same time, sense the weight of your pelvic bones, for example. So that way you have two directions through your center line. Part of you is going down, part of you is going up, and that's decompressive. If it's all only going up, which is slightly, I think, the temptation when there's been a severe kyphosis, is the desire is so much to open up and go up that you might forget that you also need to stay down, part of you.
Yeah, and connecting with that weight, bringing your focus, your presence to
Yeah,
that weight, and
yeah.
then obviously the breath is a great way, with as little intention as possible to breathe lightly, to allow the breath to float on top of your breath almost at the same time. I find is a great way to kind of counter that, or once you have that weight lowered down, to provide that opposing direction.
Exactly.
So where do so correcting and healing postures is such a comprehensive, complex thing, from mindset to presence to the physical structures that we have, to embedded old patterns and tensions and compensations and imbalances. Where do you begin when you're working with someone who says, okay, I'd like to become a creator of my posture instead of a victim? Where do you begin to approach that with somebody?
Two things. One is I watch them move. I'm not very interested in how they stand. I'm interested in how they're standing while they are walking, for example. And from that, I can see where articulations are not moving. So somebody can be walking along and be, for example, very still in the upper body. So there's a nice expression of movement up to the diaphragm, and above that, there's a stillness and a heldness that I observe. So I would put that in the back of my mind, and then I would find out from the person what is their motivation for talking to me. What do they want? So they want their headache to go away, right? Or they have a pain in their neck, or they don't like the way they look. There's so many reasons. So then I try to put what I'm seeing as, like, I'm in that case of that person, I'm looking for more uh, flexibility, resilience, motion through the upper body. And they're saying their neck hurts. So how do those two things go together? And just I just experiment, I guess. I have people try something. I have all kinds of little bite-sized experiments people can do. So first thing, maybe for that person, if it was too much stillness in the upper body, I'd maybe find out, well, is that really true? Because maybe that person has perfectly good articulation in the spine, they're just not using it. So in that case, maybe the problem is too much sitting at the computer and being too still, you know? So that person needs to find more things to do with their upper body and make use of the natural movement that's still there before they lose it.
In my own case, having a severe trauma in my teenage years, in the mid T10, I had a protection type
You
of
bet.
compensation.
Yeah.
So, I was rigid there to try to create support and stability and prevent, being vulnerable in that area, I guess. And I held that for many years. And kind of bringing that mobility back to that part of the spine has been releasing that through movement. So everyone kind of has a slightly different path on their healing, and it sounds like you use a lot of intuition to guide you in that process.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's partly intuition, it's partly, you've probably heard about mirror neurons. little neurons in your brain that it's like they read the movement of other people. If I'm watching you move, I feel it in my own body. My muscles are actually contracting, not very much, but I'm feeling your movement. So I think we all have the capacity for that. It's some say the basis of compassion, you know. So we're with a friend and they have a certain expression in their through their body, and we feel that because our body reads it. You know, it's really a physical exchange. So that natural, what is it, talent, natural attribute of human beings can be fostered, you know. And so for with my students, the people who are coming along that I'm trying to teach, that's one of the things I try to help them do, is to be more able to see with their bodies rather than see with their eyeballs. So that's part of it, is observation. But what I was suggesting earlier is that it's a conversation. It's a conversation and a journey that the student and I take together through their body. And I think that's probably true for you and your students.
So who are you working with, and let us know kind of how is it best to kind of get to know you and your world healing postures? Where can they get in contact with you?
My website is healyourposture.com, and I've been teaching online classes. I just finished one actually about the breathing and the tongue support for the nasal breath. Was really interesting. So I do that. I also coach online individuals, you know, like I can do sessions with a person, or I could do a session with another practitioner to give them my take on how they should approach perhaps their client or their student. So those are the kinds of things I do. I used to do structural integration body work, but I came down with Parkinson's disease a while back. So, you know, it's just too much. It's too hard. And I'm 81 years old. So, you know, I just kind of taken a back seat, and I really truly want to pass it out there, you know, whatever it is that I know that somebody else can find useful, you know, take it away.
Well, you're putting it out there. You're on a video podcast and transmitting it to the world. So I thank you for sharing
You're
the
welcome.
wisdom that you've collected from other people and through your own journey. I guess I'd like to kind of wrap up with a final question around like what practices, what daily movements would you recommend to do as early as possible in your life that you can take with you for a long, healthy kind of spine and life?
Okay, I have to insert one tiny thing because otherwise my publisher will be mad at me. But I have a second edition of my book coming out. Actually, right now it's called Body Mandala. Basically, what that means, a mandala is a visual image that you use to meditate. And what I'm saying is your body can be that meditation place. So in answer to your question, I would say the midline, the sense of a center line through the inside of your body. So we're all familiar with those charts, you know, where you have the top of your head and your ear and your shoulder, everything is in line, but that's on the outside. On the inside, the center of your pelvic floor, which is really where your genitals are, so really, really center inside, up through your viscera, along the front of your spine to your uvula. That's that little flap at the back of your soft palate. Okay. So those 2 points are the energetic endpoints of a flow that goes both directions, both down into gravity and up and out into space. And you don't have to, it isn't rigid. It doesn't have to be a pole. It's just kind of like a magnetism between those 2 points. So once you feel that, you can do anything. You can do flips, you can do back flips, you can swim, you can golf because you rotate around that center line. You can lift heavy weights without getting compressed because you have that polarity within you. So I kind of think that's a really good kind of internal cue to have. I like it because it's interoceptive. It's something you feel or imagine that you have on the inside of yourself. It's not imposed on the outside. And the other thing that I really love is the feet, that sense of weight in the malleoli. It's all right.
I was following you with what you were describing, and what you were describing is eloquently put. It backs up scientifically as well as esoterically. There's sacred geometry in there. I'm absolutely loving the ideas that you're sharing.
Good.
I would love to have you on in the future for another podcast. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
I'd be happy to do that.
But yes, let's have another go at this, and I think we'll be ready with to dive into an even deeper flow. I think we can go a lot deeper on some of the topics that we talked about. So thank you very much, Mary. Heal Your Posture.
So welcome.
It's also a book, the Body Mandala.
Body Mandala.
The Body Mandala, amazing. I mean, we close our eyes and we can imagine shapes and geometry and get in alignment with that. What a beautiful way to heal. So thank you, Mary. Mm-hmm. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Make sure to leave a review on this podcast. If you found value from it, let us know how you're going on your own postural restoration, your postural healing journey. And we'll see you in the next one.